What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm your host. I'm back today with another king on the stage here, Scott Peper. How we doing, Scott?
Good, Chaz. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to be on. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. You know, it was we just about had our own podcast before we hit the actual record button. We were getting into some really good stuff there, stuff about mastermind, stuff about funding both of our businesses. But I'm excited for this conversation and your intelligence around helping businesses grow. Tell us what kind of business that you have, Scott.
Well, I have a business that we help finance construction contractors and other small businesses. We call them manufacturers or other. But think of any of your primary trade businesses that are in the construction where they have a very, very, very tough cash flow cycle. If you're not familiar with construction, it's the most unique in any world. And if you took that cash flow cycle and applied it to any other business, it would probably be ruin the industry, if not definitely be much more complicated. So the entrepreneurs in the construction space are really like no other. I mean, there's not enough credit given to what they have to go through. And I think because they're so resilient, they just know what hard feels like, but they don't know it's way harder than other businesses in many ways.
Yeah.
And so we help finance those construction contractors on executing the work they get. We like to call it a revenue cycle. You get a project, you get a purchase order, you get a master service agreement, a contract of some kind in the commercial space primarily. We don't do a lot in residential. We do fund residential projects, but it would still be like a large development with like a large land developer, not necessarily John and Mary Smith building their house, so to speak.
Right.
And then what we do is we help look at what the business is going to look like. What the project's going to look like from a cash flow perspective, week over week. And we do all that modeling for our client as part of our program. We give that cash flow to them for free. Anybody can use it on our website. But if they need financing, we can show them exactly how much they need, when they need it, what the cost of the capital would be as it relates to the project cost.
Yeah.
And then we show them, hey, you're cash flow positive. This is your right exact margin, and here's how we can help you. So we essentially be an additional source of cash for them on the project to go with their actual project funds themselves to get them basically to the point where the project cash flows itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It couldn't sound like a better marriage, honestly, where, you know, like you said, we get this huge next step. And then we're like, oh, geez, there's a lot of stuff that we got to go spend money on. And sometimes that's not always the case, where the business just has a couple $100,000 or a couple million sitting aside for this next big project. So I can definitely see the value there. I'm curious for you. I want to like, why this industry? I'm going to get to your like personal why here in a second, but you're like sharp, like, you know what you're doing. You're helping like really, really precise businesses do this thing. Why does this business work for you? Like, why are you in this industry?
Yeah, it's funny. It's not by design, man. Like, and if I'm sharp, and I appreciate you saying that, I always feel like I'm getting a lot better now, but I can tell you 10 and a half years into the business is why I'm sharp in it.
Sure.
Why I feel confident talking about this. And also why I feel confident talking about it is because I've made all the mistakes, not only in my own business getting to this point, but also I've made all the mistakes with customers. Like one of the coolest parts about our business and what I like about it is that we are completely aligned with our customer. Like, what's good for them is good for us. And it's also what's good for the project, which is ultimately their customer. Oftentimes when you're in a 2-3-way parties are, basically by nature, not aligned with one another. They're opposite. They're on either sides of the contract. They're one's positive, one's negative. You know, this is good for them, it's good for us. And so if we're funding a project, it means it's a good project. It means that's good for the customer. It's also good for my customer's customer.
Yeah.
Which means if it's good for them, it's going to be good for us, because if we can help them finance it, that means there's enough money on the project. It's going to be cash flow positive. We can also make money on the loan and be repaid. So that's one thing I like about it. How I got into it was just an accident, man. I was in med device sales. I have mostly a business and sales career. I always had an entrepreneurial mindset and liked and enjoyed that. My first business that I started with a friend was when I was 25 years old, 3 years out of school, having success in sales, but just wasn't happy, you know? And so I started this health and fitness company with a friend We were way ahead of our time. I still say this, but but what we did was we it was fun. And even though I was making up like 1/10 of what I was making in sales, I was actually having more fun, and I was working 100 times harder. And
Right.
I don't know why I liked it more, and I did, but I just did. It was always more
Yeah.
exhilarating to go into that.
I was gonna
I
say you're
got
after
out.
it.
Yeah, I got out and then got into med device sales. And you know what happened there is I made enough money to get very comfortable, and it made me afraid to go back to what I liked. And I just got comfortable, but also, being honest, more miserable.
Yeah.
It took a long time, and miserable is the wrong word. Ultimately, it ended that way. Like, and again, it wasn't real misery. I had a great life. But what I did, though, Chaz, I extracted and learned a ton from corporate America that I was able to push, like leadership, great training, problems, experiences, trying to make mistakes, not being a super rep. When you're a great sales rep, and then you get promoted and you try to be a super rep as a manager. That's not a manager. Learning that in that world and environment, those lessons was very helpful for me now versus if I tried to learn that in the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all for naught. But why this business was, a friend of mine contacted me at the end of the recession so think of 2013, we're kind of going through it here. There was a lot of stimulus back into the construction industry. There was tons of money being poured in for all different types of things. And rates were also very, very low. So you start to see a lot of private development coming out of the ground, and not just residential development, but just think about shopping centers, businesses, office parks, multifamily, things like that. And one of the things that was happening was the bonding world, like think surety bonds and payment and performance bonds. They were not bonding things like they used to. The developers and the banks, they also weren't giving mobilization funds to contractors like they were. You used to sign the contract, get 10% of it up front to get going, which clearly is needed, because if you know anything about construction, you work, you put one pay app in at the end of the month, it's a hard cash flow cycle. Well, imagine all that's gone. Plus, all those construction businesses also endured a very painful period of recession. They're already not bankable as an industry as much as every other industry for some good reason by banks. But mostly, and banks will tell you this, and they've told me, they just don't understand it. You know, and if you think about it, like it took me 5 years to get a regular traditional bank line to make loans. And so if you think a bank doesn't want to lend to the construction industry, they definitely don't want to lend to a lender trying to lend to the customers that they don't want to lend to. So
they lend in a box, then that is it.
It's those boxes they don't understand. So what drew me to the business, my father also was not a general contractor, but he was in a commercial glazing business. So I was around construction, I understood it. A friend called me one day and said, "Scott, your dad was in this world. We have a great opportunity here to make loans to commercial contractors to help them execute these bonded projects. It's U.S. government or it's a city, state, municipality. They can totally fund. We know the money's good on it. They just need to execute the work. And these are the best of the best. They survive through this downturn. They're just a little bit financially impaired, and they're not getting any of the resources they used to get." I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But you know what? You're insane. Lending to contractors is the worst thing you could possibly do. So what I did was, of course, made the loan with them because I didn't want to miss out. So my entrepreneurial side is, what if they're onto something and I miss out on this opportunity? I'm going to be pissed. So we all made this little $40,000 loan to an electrical contractor and put our, kind of pass the hat, and they executed on it, and it worked great. And we got a first taste of it, and we did that again and again and again. And then maybe this is for another day, or maybe you'll get to this, but then the world of business, like of mobilization funding, kind of took its own journey in terms of your own partners and customers. But we just started scaling one loan at a time. That started as a hobby, and I just loved it. And all that stuff that came out of that health and fitness company, the excitement of it was like, I would be more excited to go on the 1 day a month trip to see my 3 or 4 partners that I was putting this together with. We were making no money and getting nothing. I'd be more invigorated on those trips to Atlanta or around Florida than I would be going up to the major corporate office of a medical device company and then, again, making no money in that world.
You were getting pulled over.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. You just mentioned that, you're obviously nervous to make that first loan to that electrical company. and for good reason. I think that anybody successful in the construction space, I also own a remodeling company here in Kansas City, and it is just not that difficult to be a standout contractor, residential or commercial. And because of that this natural, like, this is how people think about construction, I can understand your hesitation. But you pushed through that and you did the loan anyway. What did that company have or do later where you're like, oh man, they freaking did it? And so what is that little box that you've almost created for yourself? And I want you to tell the listener, whether they're in, residential or commercial, or they're in a completely different business in construction altogether, there's things about that company that allowed them to execute. And that's what I'm trying to pull out. What did they have, or what did they do that made it work?
It's a great question. And I'll answer it like this. That one company had these things. I didn't know what they were back then, so I couldn't have told you then. But knowing now, after the hundreds and hundreds of customers we've helped, here's what they all have. They have an opportunity. They have pure desire to do what they want to do in the right way. They're humble enough to know what they don't know, or at least be comfortable to say, I don't know everything. Maybe they don't know what they don't know, but they know they don't know everything. And they make a choice to trust someone. And if they trust the right person and they have humility and the right partner can join them, meaning like a lender, not a partner like in their business.
Sure,
an operating partner in the business, right. I guess too. But in our case, they can let us utilize the resources we have to pour into them to fill those gaps. At the same time, it's beneficial in fixing their problem. And so it's really the customers that have a good opportunity. They're humble enough to know what they don't know, and they're looking for an option, not just money.
Yeah.
Those are the best. People that are just looking for money are not typically great customers for a lot of reasons. And I don't say customers for us. I just mean customers in general, because if you're just looking for money, there's a bunch of people out there that will just give you money, and a lot of times it's in the wrong setting. But getting the money in the right way to fix your specific problem, or not your problem, but your opportunity.
Yeah.
That's the key. Like, because you can get the same $100,000 with this set of terms is not the same $100,000 with this set of terms. One can help you dramatically. One could hurt you dramatically.
Yeah.
And you still have $100,000, right? So
that's
it's
right.
not the $100,000 you need. It's the right 100 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so those are the ones that do it the best. You can say, hey, look, I want to latch on, but it's hard I sympathize with it, because you got to trust a lender or another person with your financing, your truths, your
right.
honest, like, hard facts, and at the same time, you're like, what if they don't approve me? What if I tell them this and they don't? Or they say, oh, you know what? I bet they want to hear this, this, and this, so I'm just going to tell them that, but it's not true.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. That's why I say it's the guys that are humble and say, I got this opportunity. I know I can knock it out from a performance standpoint, but here's what I'm uncomfortable with. Can you help me?
Yeah. There's several principles there, mindset wise, even. There's a confidence, but yet a humility, a wholesome perspective. I would maybe say, is that person isn't so arrogant to think, well, I just need money. And I'm glad you got to that point, because I was thinking that was the other end of the spectrum, which was, we have this person that has an opportunity, whether it's good or not, we don't know, but they, particularly as an operator, just want money. It's a transaction as opposed to a relationship. That's, this partnership that you've referred to. What do you think that person, you've mentioned, like a willingness to learn or humility, and then an ability to perform. Is there something that the listener right now can take away from this conversation, just saying, okay, like, as an entrepreneur, what should I be doing on a regular basis to develop these things? So whether it's down the road, I need funding, or I just want to create great relationships with strategic partners like a funding company or a lending company, what can I be doing now as a listener to help me develop these things that you're saying, these are what the A players are doing in this space?
It's a good question. So, what I see a lot of people do sometimes is they're just hustling. They don't have a real plan. There's not a strategy. They're just hustling. And that's good, because honestly, to get to, like your podcast says, to even get to $1 million, really, honestly, that's what you have to do.
Yeah,
you gotta
just hustle,
man. You're just banging your head, and one day you get an opportunity, and you're just making it happen. And in many cases, you may not even be making it happen in the most strategic way or even in a profitable way. And you know what?
Right.
I'll even be the first one to say that's okay. It is, because you're going to make mistakes. You might make a bunch of profit, or it looks like you are, and then you make a mistake and that's gone, you know? So like all that's cool. I think at some point though, you have to transition to say, you know what, I'm not just surviving anymore, but I'm actually capable of surviving, but now I need to thrive and strive. And thrive can mean a lot of different things, and it can take a certain different amount of time depending on what business you're in and what you're capable are and what you feel comfortable doing too.
Yeah.
It's that transition I think is key. So, and then the next piece would be, as you come into that phase, those folks that are saying, you know what, here's what I know, but I'm starting the process of trying to figure out, I know I need operations, I know I need leadership, and I know I need financing. How am I going to go out and build the right relationships now based on where I want to go, not based on the immediate pain I'm feeling at this moment? Or I get this project, now I'm going to go figure out how to finance it. That is a really dangerous place to be with $1 million business. You can have a couple $100,000 business and make those mistakes and do that, because you can fill those $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 gaps quicker. But you got $1 million business and you're now growing and doing a little bit bigger projects, whatever that means to you. And now you're developing that same I'll figure it out on the fly strategy isn't good.
Yeah.
The key person is going into it with a plan and saying, I have a way that now take that $400,000 job without panic. I'm going to take I usually do $50,000 to $100,000 jobs, but I got this $400,000 job that my customer's been wanting to give me, and I keep passing them up. That's a smart person, by the way. The ones that are passing up opportunities because they know they can't finance them or do them until they get the right project manager or they get the right finance partner or both.
Right.
Those are the folks that you really want to lean into because they get it. And now you just kind of like unleash them. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the difference maker, I think. They make the transition, they develop a plan, and they are working proactively to solve those finance, operation, and leadership needs up front.
Yeah. You just gave incredible value. I hope that the listeners are paying attention. That wasn't just for construction. That was for really any business. Yeah. Really the proactive.
I made all those mistakes. Like, I was winging it on my way to $1 million and just trying to survive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, and if you've done it multiple times, or have seen others do it multiple times, it's the same story. It's the same craziness and chaos and managing all the pieces until you just say, basically, no more. Like I'm going to think ahead a little bit on this one. And so I think that was probably the biggest takeaway from all that is just, hey, for half second, don't chase your tail, chase what you want, but you can't chase what you want right now, listener, because you're chasing your tail. And so all the things that Scott just gave to you as far as basically slowing down to speed up, are what I see time and time again in that really $1 to $3 million range, is because someone has gotten to the 1 million from hustle. Like you said, they maybe have 1 or 2 or 5 or 6, maybe 10 people on their team, but they're growing to that 10-person team. And it's just crazy. It's just chaos is really all it is. Yeah. But eventually you have to start putting in thought and systems and process, which includes strategic partnerships like Scott. So I want to transition. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You mentioned there, what this too is, I think we all think we're supposed to know certain things. And the truth is you're not. Like you're not just first of all, you only know what you know.
That's right.
There's no list of things you're supposed to have to know. And there's a bucket of people that know everything that can't get anything done. So like, I think it's okay to just accept the fact that like, I think it'd be okay with what you really do know, and then be okay with what you don't. And don't let that, like, I call it the abundance for scarcity mentality. Like, don't let that scarcity of, I don't know, I'm going to look, this, and that. And they're going to think differently. I mean, it's a lender. They won't approve me if I don't know this. Like, it's just lean into, hey, this is what I'm really good at. We had a client one time first call. He said, hey, this is what I'm really good at. These are the things I don't know anything about. I was like, this guy's awesome. I can help this guy to 10. Like, I was like, here's all the things I'm good at, and these are the things I don't know anything about. You know, like that's how it started, and it was great. So I think if someone's going to take something away, I would say, don't worry about what you don't know, man. Like, just don't worry about it. It's okay. Like you can learn later, but just be honest at this moment in time with what you do know and feel comfortable with and what you don't know and be comfortable with, and let someone pour into you.
Yeah. You're really underlining just a deeper principle of growth or growth mindset. It's not just about growing a revenue number. That's not growth mindset necessarily. Yes, there's a piece to that you have to be, growing the actual thing that you're growing. But the mindset that you're referring to is actually, we were talking about this before we hit the record button. And when we were talking about masterminds and the difference between like maybe an actual group of people that are doing the thing versus like a group coaching. And it's like, if you come to a circle of people that that have skill sets that maybe you don't, or maybe you have similar skill sets, but they've just been there before you, or even if they haven't, this person at a peer level or above, of course, they can agitate thought. And so that's really what you're saying, which is like, hey, let's get into the room. I'll take off my crown. You take off yours, like we have already done here today. I don't need to necessarily tell you about funding. You don't necessarily need to tell me about the businesses that I'm in, but what does that matter? Let's just put that aside. Let's add value to each other. It doesn't matter that I'm an expert over here, that you're an expert over here, because there's certain circumstances, even in funding, that I'm sure I've experienced that I can add value to you and to your people, and vice versa. So it's like, but you don't have that ability to actually give value back and forth like that if the crown never comes off, if the ego never comes off, like what you're saying. You start the call with, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm not. Let's see what we can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I like to read. I read quite a bit, and I'm sure many people have read the book Think and Grow Rich. If you haven't, you should. But there's a piece in there where it talks about Henry Ford being sued, and he is on the stand, and they're trying to say he's dumb and hasn't had education, and da-da-da-da. And he said, I got this magic thing on my desk that I push these buttons, and all the information comes into me. And he's basically referring to all the experts in his world. And that's essentially what we're talking about. It's a mastermind. Yeah. If you know something really well, Chaz, and now I know you, and I know you know that, and you're an honest, good person that I can trust, that I've developed that rapport with, I'm not going to say I don't ever need to know what you need to know, but I'm good now because I know you. And if I know to call you and I'm humble enough and you're willing enough to share and ask me, then I'm good in many ways, And so I think if you didn't think that way, you then would hold back and lean into all the things you're good at and doing a lot of talking. You're not getting the benefit of the relationship really if you're doing all the talking. And I think sometimes clients, and to answer your question more specifically too, what do the best do? They say, hey, here's what I'm good at and here's what I'm not. Here's what I need help at. Can you help me? I'm like, okay. They're putting it on me to tell them how I can help them. Not worried about like, here's my resume, here's why I'm all great. They're making me tell them why I can help them first. And I got to understand that. That's the real, those are the people that really we help and lean into the most and can help.
Yeah, love that. Let's transition here a little bit. I want to know, we've talked about your industry quite a bit and how you're helping people, but for you, for Scott individually, now that I know that even that you've read Think and Grow Rich and that you're a proponent of, chapter 2 talks about desire and we create a burning desire. And so something inside that is hot and we keep fueling it. What is that for you? What's the bigger picture here for you?
There's a few, and they've been different along the way. My family and my daughters and my wife, like fulfilling my commitment to them is the most important thing to me. And I think fulfilling, that goes along with what I believe, in God. God's provided me so many opportunities. My wife and my children, I think, are just a reflection of that.
Right.
And it's the daily reminder of like, I made a commitment to be the best father, be the best husband I can, be the best man, brother, and leader to anybody I can be, right? And son to my parents. And I think that desire goes along with providing the way, not just providing money, but showing them what it's like, doing the work and living at your best standard, whether it's your health, your fitness, your education, owning your mistakes along the way. You can't be perfect all the way. So just sharing that journey. I got 3 daughters. The oldest is 16, 14, and 12. Well, like, what am I going to show them? They going to go out and they're going to meet their own husband one day, and what are they going to emulate? If the best standard they know is like somebody that cuts corners or hasn't been whatever he can be. And I'm not talking about financially successful. I'm talking about Do they see me educating myself? Do they see me going to work out? Do they see me eating well, taking care of myself, taking care of their mother, taking care of them? Like, that is my burning desire. And I think part of that is, again, your health, your fitness, what you do for work. Is it fulfilling? Not how much money you make, but is it fulfilling? Are you fulfilled? Yeah. And I do think myself, if I'm attaching my own personal desires to it, yes, I want to be as wealthy as I can be, and I want, mostly because I want financial freedom, which I think is the only way to get it. You have to be at least financially free to be free. And I also want to be able to provide and help as many people as I can. And if you've been given certain attributes or the ability to learn them, you have a duty, in my opinion, from God to fulfill your best potential, so that he can use you in the most beneficial way to serve the good word. That's what I believe. And so if you do that properly, you're going to have to keep growing and learning, and that's a burden.
That's right.
And with that can come great wealth, but you also have to use it properly.
Yeah. Yeah. You did such a great job of really just clearly describing what fulfillment is for a king. And I think that, as you said, not always do people line up with how you've described success for you. And that's okay. Not everybody's designed. We can't have everybody be a king.
Yeah.
Look, it wouldn't work.
I'll be 48 in November. That wasn't I wouldn't answer that question the same way at 28 or 35,
Right.
so it comes with time.
Yeah. Yeah. You were in the warrior stage, or maybe even cowboy before that. But in all seriousness, you've described this, place that, where you're winning in all areas, really, I guess is probably an oversimplification of it, and then the impact that has on the people that are closest to you. And so what do you think for you? Because you kind of highlighted my question here by saying it wasn't at 28, but now it is at 42. But was that a moment in time, or was that a story that you can remember where you're like, I remember when things changed for me mentally, when I was like, okay, I know I got to start winning, not just in business, not just money wise, but like in my marriage, as a dad, in my community, on a podcast, when I'm giving back to other entrepreneurs who I'm never going to meet ever. Like, I just need to win in all areas. That's just a whole nother level of thing, because people talk about it, but like accepting that and going after that. What happened for you in that?
It's easy. I can draw a straight line to it. I was super successful in terms of your medical device selling. I was winning awards. I was getting promoted. I was, for all intents and purposes, like rolling, feeling confident. I mean, as good as you can get, right? And then you look at the rest of the attributes of your life, and you're like, well, that's not the same there in that piece. This isn't so much fun. Like, that doesn't correlate over to your personal life, your marriage, your kids. And for me, it was primarily like 2013, 14, really coincidentally the same time I'm starting Mobilization Funding, which I don't think is a coincidence, by the way, based on what I've told you before. So, or just said to everybody, I guess. But, you got to recognize those opportunities. I didn't recognize that's what was happening then, but I know it is now.
Sure.
But what happened was I was traveling all over the country. I actually talk about this on my YouTube channel. It's my our main piece that pops up. But I was traveling. I had all the awards. I had all the accolades for flight credits and everything else. And I was leading 100 people. And I was in charge of the whole country. And I had vice president title. And I'd come home, and my wife and 3 young daughters would see me like once a week or over the weekend. And by the way, because I was leaving again and gone, it would take them 2 days just to even acclimate. It's not like they just turn it right back on. And my wife said to me one time, Scott, I was like, babe, what's wrong? What's wrong? She's like, well, you've been gone. Sometimes we just have to pretend you don't exist to make it easy. And I was like, that sucks. I remember like, this is not worth it. And by the way, and then I realized, I don't even like it. I don't pack a bag. It's not even that exciting anymore. And so I quit within the next 6 months and found a different opportunity. And what I did was I just started talking to a bunch of people, and an opportunity came. And it was not coincidence again.
Exactly.
I took that, and then that led to this, and that was great for 6 or 7 years. So all of a sudden I eliminated the travel, but stayed in the medical world. I could help everybody still, leading in what I was good at the time. And then this opportunity came about. And of course, when this was an opportunity, it was a habit. It wasn't like it didn't take my requirements like it does today, 10 years in,
Right.
where this is the only thing I do. So I did double duty for a long time, but at least I was home. I was present, and I didn't have to be there the whole time. It wasn't like my wife had a scoreboard like, how much dishes do you do versus me, or laundry versus me. She wasn't doing that,
Right.
but it just needed to be home, like there. And my
Yeah.
whole relationship changed with regard to, I mean, our relationship was always great, my wife and I, but my relationship changed a lot with my kids because I was around more. Just even if it's just good night, and in the morning when you drop them to school, and at night when they go to bed, you don't have to be there all day. You just have to have lots of quality moments in consistent patterns, not breaking up the days. At least that's for me. So that's what it really tied to, Chaz. That's what was the change for sure.
It's good stuff. I think that that's more relatable to entrepreneurs than maybe most people are willing to admit. But it's real. It's real. And I think that moment for you, what you really wanted was to win with your wife, and you obviously hold her, you hold her perspective and her respect in a high enough regard where that hit you like hard. And thank goodness for her, to be able to say that.
People
it's tough for drivers like us to,
you say your wife or your kids. I'm motivated by like ultimately going to her and saying like, I did it like what I told you I was going to do, whatever that may be.
Yeah. You said earlier, family, but how you said family, it was fulfilling your duty to them. And so you're right. What you just said is 100% true. What, intrinsically is motivating you, is to be who you're supposed to be. To be in integrity with yourself. And that includes being a good husband, and that includes being a good dad, because you said you were going to do those things. And so you need to go do those things because you said you're going to do them.
Right.
That's great stuff. Great story. I want to know of a practical good decision that you've made in business that you would do over and over and over again.
Yeah. The best decision I ever made in business was to join the Arte Syndicate and really follow coaching and guidance. So the short answer would be getting coaching and guidance, but more importantly, getting it from the right coaches that appealed to me. Andy, for those people that don't know, Andy Frisilla and Ed Milet started this Arte Syndicate. I happened to be listening a lot to the MF CEO podcast that Andy Frisilla had, and I instantly was drawn to it because it was that voice, that inner voice that I have to myself was very, very analogous to the way Andy spoke. So it was easy for me to grasp onto. It was hard. It was ruthless. It was the truth. But I also found it very funny because that's kind of how I would communicate in my own head. Even playing sports, I remember the way some of the stuff I probably wouldn't even be able to say. But I would think that to motivate myself. So I would say, here you are doing this business thing, and you got to get some information from somewhere, man. Like, you just don't know it all. And I wasn't a reader at the time either. I didn't read a lot, 6-7 years ago. I kind of stopped reading for probably 15 years after I graduated. And I didn't even like it when I was in college. And I was the kind of guy that would say, oh, you know what? I don't need to read. I read 100 emails a day. Like, that was me. I used to say stupid shit like that, like all the time. Like, I remember saying that and like justifying it and thinking I didn't justify it. I actually thought I was right, because I didn't understand what reading really was about, or educating yourself. So that was clearly the best decision, because you know what it did, Chaz? It opened up all those doors I told you before when you asked me, like, what do the best people do that that can grow their business? What do they do? It helped me really quickly be comfortable with what I just kind of articulated to you. Here's what I know well, and it's okay to actually say I don't know this, because I used to be the guy that would think I'd be at a class or a mastermind, and instead of me listening, I'd be thinking, okay, what's the best question I can ask so I sound smart? Like, I used to do that, like literally do that all the time. And then I realized, like, that doesn't matter. It's more interesting what you raising your hand and say, I don't know what you just said. Can you please explain that to me? It's far more interesting than trying to pretend you know.
Well, usually gets a better answer too.
Yeah. And so that by far and away, and I took all that stuff that isn't that complicated or hard. It's hard, but it's not. It's like the answer isn't complicated. It's just you got to go do it. You get the information, and you have to actually execute on it. It helped me be so much more comfortable with myself, what I know, what I don't know, what to do in certain situations, how to execute doing it. That when this, and this happens, you're actually on the way. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
This is the line between bad and good. All those things that I wouldn't have known or been more, I might have known, but I would have been uncomfortable with what I was knowing that now I knew. That was the best business decision I ever made. And by the way, we would, no doubt in my mind, would not be even having any of the success that we had. And I would have I've definitely avoided problems that I would have had otherwise created for myself from that specific decision to do. No doubt.
Yeah. When you surround yourself with people that, like you said, even at your level, or the ones that are like really far out there, like an Andy and an Ed, and you're humble enough to go, maybe I should implement. First, I should listen. And then I should maybe implement a few of these things. You start seeing like massive results. And I've gotten that same thing even from reading a book, like just, again, the humility of reading a book and going, there's something in here for me. I don't know what it is yet, but like, I'm like sifting through the pages. I gotta get one thing. What is it? And as soon as you get that one thing and you go and do it, you're like, wow. You start calculating value on knowledge, community, accountability, forward thinking, like all of these things that probably you get from all of those connections. So,
yeah. And you do it long enough too, you can draw a straight line back to, I remember learning that lesson. I didn't do that. And then enough time goes by, you realize that the fact you didn't do that, you now see the end result of you not doing it. And you're like, well, that would have cost me X amount of dollars or time or energy or whatever. You start to, then you build this confidence because now you're seeing the value that that's actually bringing to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Give us an example there, because I think a lot of people, well, I think I find people in two camps, maybe actually three. I find people who are in a mastermind or some sort of a community like you and or Gathering the Kings. And we understand everything that you're saying. We're like, yes, calculate it, check it. So much value. I'd pay triple the amount. Then you have two people, or you have two other camps. One that maybe doesn't even know what we're talking about, and they're like, "What is this thing that you're talking about? Getting around people and learning and growing and like shortening my time horizon and pulling all of your knowledge out. And now I have it because I know you." And then you have the other camp of like, I've been there in that group. I didn't get value because maybe it was more of a group coaching, or maybe it was like sold as this really big thing, and then like just no value on the inside, unfortunately, which happens a lot. What would you say to those two people? The people that either don't know, I was gonna say most of them, exactly. What would you say the person that has no idea what we're talking about but is interested, or the person that has been jaded, basically, like, I've tried that thing, I spent a ton of money, I got no value, but then Scott's telling me that there's immense value. I don't understand.
Well, I think one is they're not all the same. I think you got to look at the right groups for where you're at, and make sure you're in a place that. My goal in anything I'm trying to do, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, because selfishly, you're going to learn more, right? If I was trying to put myself in rooms to help myself, and I was also at a different level or a higher level or at a more experienced, whatever you want to call it, right? Just more experienced. I'll call it more experienced in that moment. Then I'm probably going to get a lot of help, but it's going to be different. I'm going to get a lot of help because I'm going to be giving to a lot of people value that they will ultimately utilize and bring back some point in time. But if I have an immediate need today that I'm seeking a group for, which means I need to extract more than I might be necessarily putting in, or at least it's going to be equal. You want to be around folks that are the opposite scenario. They've gotten to a spot and they want to be giving back, and they're helping you, bring you along. They're dragging you along. That's the key, which I think is a real key to the whole thought process. When you get in these groups, what I think you get, if you're going to be successful, if you're going to find success or not, what you ultimately, the first thing you learn is the more you give, the way more you're going to get. It is not transactional, and the person you're pouring into is not the person that's going to pour back to you. The second you can shift that, if you ever can shift it, you will then learn that's where all of your value is, and the world will get a lot easier for you, both mentally and practically and financially. And that's a hard shift because you're built to learn transactionally. Every sales training I ever went to, every company I ever went to, it's assess whether or not they're worth your time to talk to.
Yeah.
Every sales funnel question you'd put on a website would be, are basically to figure out, are they worth calling back or not?
Yep.
And it's just so contrary to how it actually works. And any significantly successful person that I've met, and I guess depends on what success you're thinking of, but the people that are really successful, they understand that principle like 97% of them. Like,
Yeah.
and that's how they got there. And it's also so much more rewarding, man. It's so much more fun. It's so much easier. If you're trying to continually analyze who, you're just building these transactions that sometimes will make you feel good, but it's just a transaction. You really need to build and cultivate this like energy that you're pouring out to so many different people. You don't even know who's pouring back into you or how it's coming. Like, you just got to trust that it's coming.
Wow. Yeah, that last little piece there. Because you're right. The person that I'm pouring into in a group setting like you're talking about, I may never get direct correlation back from, but it's the other guy in the room or gal who is just as sharp, who was quiet the whole time. Later, 3 months later, 3 years later, says one particular thing that, changes everything. So I love that last little piece there, though, that you said, though, of not even like step one would be like, this person isn't going to necessarily be the one. It's probably somebody else. But then really the ultimate for what you just said was, I'm just going to give, and I'm not even going to calculate who's giving me value. I'm just going to trust that this law exists. The law of reciprocity, the law of reaping and sowing. I mean, we could go down the list. I'm just going to do what is good and know that things will come back because that's really how the world works.
Yeah. And it's not like just open doors for people and then they open them for you. That's an easy way to do it. If you're starting at the bottom, do that first. Just start opening doors. First of all, you'll be surprised how good you feel, number one. Number two, you're going to be surprised at what the people you didn't expect will say to you when you open the door.
Yep.
Like, that feels good. And like, you're just not going to feel bad versus, and you're creating these opportunities that you just don't know. It's just a unique philosophy. I wish I knew way sooner. This is why I have no problem talking about it. Because I know half the people listening to this will be like, what a nut job. And maybe not in your podcast because they're listening to your podcast. But if they just snapshotted this little clip, they're like, that guy's crazy. There's going to be a whole nother half that are going to be like, no, he gets it. It's going to resonate.
Right.
And those are the ones you want to focus on. Those are the ones you're trying to get to. Like, you want to be so genuine about what your thoughts are that the people that are prone to it will be like, you know what, that person is normal. They say, like, I have those feelings. Okay, it's okay for me to do it now too. The other ones, they're not going to pay attention to you anyway. So you might as well just get out, be clear.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think there's value in that for sure. The person that doesn't quite think like that, because you said, both you and I, we wish we had known it sooner, which means that we used to be in that camp. And that camp is just the warrior camp. The camp is, I have to survive. I have to build this business. It's on the trail to $1 million. Generally speaking, it's chaos. It's like, I'm just in survival mode. I'm just trying to not die. At some point we start thinking a little bit more strategically, or like you said earlier, proactively planning and putting things in place, which includes things like shaking hands with open expectation, right? I mean, this is, I don't know the exact episode number, but we're probably 360-ish right now. And it's like, I have no idea what the exact value has been from me doing 360 episodes in the last 18 months. But I can tell you right now that I just did a family mastermind cruise a month ago. We went to Bermuda. Every single person on that cruise I met through this podcast. And I was like, I had no idea, like, because I've been friends with these people now for a while. Some are in my group, some are not. Some help facilitate, some were just there with their families. And it was like, I literally told Julie, my wife, I'm like, everybody here is connected back to this podcast somehow. I'm like, what? It's not like I have like this funnel going on over here. Like, I'm just shaking hands.
I know.
So I think that what you're saying makes 100% truth. And I can literally say, this is what this show has been for me,
Well, Chaz, I can tell you that, number one, it's great that you understand that and you see that perspective now, because you're right. Like, even if you think like, oh, I have this podcast and it's not thin right now, and you just keep moving, right? And eventually it turns into something. What is that something? Well, you'll find out.
Exactly.
Like, I didn't know anything about this stuff. I got on LinkedIn. I have 8,200 some followers, right? That's nothing. Like just I could go on LinkedIn all day long and find thousands and thousands of people with way more than that. But here's what I can tell you. I had 500. Now I have 8,200 3 years later. I've been consistently talking about, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of cool people I've met. Hundreds. That's a lot of people. Like if I put hundreds of people in a room, like that's a lot of people. I can't keep up with all those people.
Yeah.
Right. They've poured into this business. And I can tell you based on our just financials alone, if you want to look at that, if you want to look at customers, if you want to look at how many team members we have, look at our office now versus our office then. I mean, pick any metric you want. It's significantly better. So what is only 8,000 followers? Well, hey, it's a shit ton to me. It's just a way better environment to me. And I can tell you our whole business is linked to the stuff we've done just only on LinkedIn or social media since we started only 3 years ago. And the reason I did that was because it was the middle of COVID, or it was the start of COVID.
Right.
We weren't going to make loans. We were all scared. We didn't know. It was March of 2020. So what did we do? I was like, well, I might as well just I have access to accountants. I have access to lawyers. I have access to bankers. I'm going to start interviewing them and just put them out on Zoom calls and create this YouTube channel so people know how to get a PPP loan. They know what to do.
Right.
I can tell them what I'm doing. And that's the only way I can help customers right now because I can't make loans.
Yeah.
And that's what it turned into. And now, like, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. You saw it an opportunity to add value first with no like, this is what it's going to turn into. Because truthfully, even if you had thought about what it might turn into, it probably wouldn't have been what it was you thought it was going to be anyway. Because that's how relation, if done organically and genuinely, because you just never know. Like I've had so many interviews where I'm like, dude, we got to do something together, but we haven't because we just our stories just don't really align yet, and that's okay. But like that was only 6 months ago. I'm going to know this person potentially for the next 40 years. Like surely at some time somewhere, we're going to do something cool together, and I think that's just the best piece of that. It's like I don't have to necessarily keep up with them every month, hundreds or thousands or whatever, but we crossed paths. I made impact. I added value, and hopefully they did the same. And now it's like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, he's doing that. Yes, let's at least take a look at it. Or that's the guy that's doing the funding. I mean, dude, I saw that guy on the podcast. Like, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. You're good. I'm trying to pay attention to time here.
I was gonna say, I think sometimes people think too. They hear me and you talking right now, and the reason I keep saying 10 and a half years, 10 and a half years, 10 and a half years, and I bury that number is because, it all intents and purposes, most people that find us at Mobilization Funding were like, man, I wish I knew you're here. Why don't you guys must be so busy? Why don't you guys do this more? Why don't we know you? And the truth is, like, they're right. Like, but it takes 10 and a half years sometimes to get going. Like if you knew us then, you wouldn't have been happy. Like if we would have failed you, we under delivered, like and all that's okay. So I think sometimes people think like they're slow or they're so late to the game that they got to hurry. And you need to work consistently with urgency. You do, but you don't need to hurry, and you don't need to listen to you and I talking right now. And I don't even know how many years you've got into this, but like you get these success points, but it takes time. Like, and it's okay. Just start and go. I don't want people to think like, oh, I'm so far behind. I can't believe this. I'm telling you right now, like, thank God this has only been the way it is the last 3 years. Because if the previous disasters of the first 7 didn't happen, I'd have never, and I mean never, been able to deliver on the last 3 or whatever is going to be here in the future.
Yeah, no, it's a real reality what you're talking about. How does one listening right now today go, okay, what I'm hearing you say is I should consistently work urgently, set goals, and then take action daily basis. Like I'm after it. I'm hungry, but yet not hurry, which means I'm not operating in anxiety or a super pressurized situation, except for that it is pressurized because I'm consistently doing it and I'm holding myself to a certain standard or an accountability. That's a tug and a pull, and maybe easily I can swing one way or the other. What would be your advice for that person who's trying to figure that out?
It's a good thought. So I would tell you this: if you don't know where you're going exactly, you're going to feel anxiety all the time. And
Yeah.
therefore you're going to hurry and rush every single day because you're not there and you don't even know where there is. That's first.
Whew, powerful.
Second would be once you know where you're at, you got to realize it's going to take time to get there. And if you work backwards, you can break down the years into months, into weeks, into days. And if you just work, when I say work urgently, it means attack your day. Don't ride your day. Don't let your day drive you. If you get out and you know exactly these are the 4, 5, 6 things I need to do today, and not necessarily the to-do list, but the things that you're trying to accomplish, the to-do list is always going to be there. But the main things that are moving you towards your goal of where you want to be. That's why it's so important to know where you want to be. And sometimes where you want to be isn't where you want to be in 10 years. It might just be where you want to be in next month. Like start there. Next year, what do you want your business to look like a year later? Like that's a great start. 3 years, 5 years is really even better. But even if you've never done this before, just where do you want your beat? What would perfect look like for you in your business 1 year from now? Okay, great. Move backwards. What do you need to do between where you're at this second to what do you need to do to get there? Where are the holes? Where are the gaps? Maybe it's hire a project manager. Maybe it's this. You'll identify 6 or 7 things you're going to need. When I say attack the day versus let the day ride you, what I mean is like those 6 or 7 things are the things that you have to be urgent and hurry about. Like getting some progress towards those each and every day until you can start checking them off the list. Then you move to the next, set of goals. That's the urgency. The calls, the emails, not urgent about keeping up with your email, right? Like that's not the urgency I'm talking about. That will help you tremendously feel less anxious and more comfortable because you know what you're accomplishing. So at the end of the day, if you still have 100 emails, but you know you got the 5 or 6, 7 things done towards your ultimately getting there, it gives you a peace to be able to go home and sit on the couch with your daughters and know that you got 80 emails that you didn't get to, but it's okay. You'll get to them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or you clean up maybe one of the things is you got to clean up your email. Maybe you're just terrible with email. You got 80 emails and 50 of them are things you should be talking to. Like, I'm not telling you to not get your email. I'm just telling you don't make your whole life shoving emails around in real time.
Yeah. And if there's 50 that you need to be addressed, that means they should have already been addressed before today and you need to hire somebody probably. That's probably really what that means. Really, really good stuff. I appreciate you taking us there. The picture of poise is what I got from what you're saying is like, it's not, I'm urgent on the things that are important, the things that move the needle. In order to figure out those things, you got to figure out what you want so that you can determine these are the things that are going to move that specific needle. And then the daily tasks, I can't be urgent about those per se. I'm not hurrying. I love the definition between hurry and urgent. I think that's a very clear picture that you gave us. I've got one last question here for you, Scott. I want to know if you had the opportunity to whisper in the younger Scott's ear, what would you tell that guy?
I tell him to read Think and Grow Rich sooner in life and buy into all those principles.
That's good, man.
And I would tell him in the same sense, don't break away from the faith you grew up in and lean into it more and understand it because it's all related, man. Everything you and I are talking about, as corny as it sounds to some, it's just not. I mean, it's literally sitting right there in the Bible. It's hard to read, maybe, or hard to understand, but there's so many better ways now to understand that. But I would say it's got stay close to that, lean into that. That's what's going to give you your peace and comfort, and then read that, particularly Think and Grow Rich, but then the litany of other books that come after that so you can actually implement those things. And just know that the continuous education that you're going to give yourself is going to be everything you're going to use, particularly in business, and none of it will be what you've really got in college, and that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, every level adds a something you carry with you to the next level. So especially when it comes to failures. Don't be selfish. We talked about that a lot today. A lack of selfishness, a promotion of humility. It's the ability to see others before oneself.
Well, the truth is, man, once you understand it, and this is true, now I feel selfish giving more because I know it's actually going to help me more.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And that sounds crazy. That would have sounded insane. If I heard someone say that in 25, I'm like, that guy is a clown. What a douche. I'm not listening to him anymore. But I'm telling you, like that is just the solid truth, man. You get so
Yeah.
much more back, and it's not necessarily monetarily or financially. And that was my problem. I always thought that like getting something was going to be somehow tied to money or prestige.
Right.
And it is, but it doesn't come that way first. It's just hard, man, to explain. And I think you have to be older. Like I said, I'm going to be 48, but you got to have at least older, maybe not in age, but in experience, like from the period of time where you make a transition to, you can do it sooner. I mean, yeah, if I could have walked off that plane and had the same epiphany with my wife and kids at 22, then yeah, maybe I would have been there at 30, but it wasn't until I was 38 or 39.
Yeah. Which I think, in the grand scheme of things is the courage that a lot of listeners need, is that the timeline starts whenever you say it does. Mm-hmm. Nobody else is keeping track of your scorecard, or at least not that they should be. And really, what do you care about what they think anyway? If your scorecard starts today at 22 or 42, it started today. Now let's go. I think that's the encouragement, and then be able to watch you do the same thing, even at an older age. It's like, if anything, it just gives poise to some of the young guys listening. It's like, hey, look, like maybe you should go work for a corporate job for a little while and get some experience on how to lead people before you try to have a team of 100 people of your own, because you're probably not going to lead them very well. Just if you just all of a sudden had a big business and had 100 people without reading some books and having some experience.
Yeah.
So there's definitely value in that as well. Scott, how can the listener find you? Number one, if they are in the commercial construction space and they're needing a funding partner, or if they're just an entrepreneur and they want to reach out and break bread with you or connect over LinkedIn, how can they find you specifically?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's my primary, I would say, preferred choice or easiest. I keep up with those very well. So LinkedIn, Scott Peper. Our website, mobilizationfunding.com, just like you'd think, mobilization funding. That we have tons of resources and information on there. And then our YouTube channel, Mobilization Funding, is really those are the three places. So personally on LinkedIn, and then both Mobilization Funding, our website, and Mobilization Funding YouTube has a ton of information, stuff you and I have talked about today, stuff that's specific, actual tools, spreadsheets, cash flow charts, all of which is totally free, tutorials on how to use them, guides, everything is on there.
Love it.
And I wrote a book called Big Book of Cash Flow that kind of talks through a lot of those specifics too. That's a great spot to grab some information and info too.
Absolutely. Well, and you can purchase the book from your website?
You can buy it on our website, or you can buy it even on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, okay. Big Book of Cash Flow, Scott Peper, and it'll pop up. Perfect.
We'll put that in the show notes as well. I'm sure it'll be helpful to many listeners if they're actionable, and grab it. So, Scott, I think we could probably keep talking for a couple of hours at this point. We're just in a lot of alignment here, but you've been incredible. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your team for getting you set up here and giving value. Blessings to your family and to all the clients that you're impacting here in 2023. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Man, I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity, and God bless your audience and all your folks. And I wish them all the best. And if there's anything we can do to help you, please let me know, man.